All right. Okay. All right, so now since we have a tree, there is something that's called a tree traversal. You're gonna learn about it maybe later in the data structures course, but it's just a simple meaning of that is that you just wanna walk through the elements of the tree. Okay, so you're starting from one element in the tree, one node in the tree. What can you access one step at a time? That's the traversal, and like in a nutshell. All right, so we can traverse the DOM tree using some methods that are some properties in the node object. Okay, so traversal means we can move from one node to another. Okay, now let's see. If we are starting at this element, if we're starting at Li, that is the second Li in the children list here. Okay, so first of all, we need to access it. We need to have a starting point. Okay, now what can we access from there? We can access the parent. So obviously, parent node, this is the name of the property. It will give us a reference to the parent of that node. Okay, now we can access the sibling. So what does a sibling mean? Sibling mean all the nodes that have the same parent. Okay, so it can be previous sibling or next sibling. Now there is a distinction. There is another property that's called previous sibling directly without the word element. And that doesn't refer to the element node. It refers to a text node. Okay, so if we have a set of children that are, some of them are elements, some of them are text, and we want to traverse through them, we can use the previous or next sibling if we want to jump into the text as well. If we want to jump over the text, we can use the previous element sibling. But how come we don't see any text here? Do you see any text here? Well, we don't see any text here, but the way the list is presented on the browser, it has to go one line. So every element has to, every item in the list has to be in a one line, and then you go down one line, right? So there is invisible text, even though we don't specify either in the code or we see it, but there is invisible text that is the new line between the lists. So if you try to navigate through the siblings using previous or next sibling, you will have to go to that empty line node. We'll see it in a bit when we get to the hands-on. Okay, just there is a difference between the property that has element in it and the property that doesn't have element in it. Okay, so obviously the next element sibling will go to the next sibling that is element. Okay, so if there is a sibling that is text, it will jump over it. All right. So where do we, yes. What is it? The second, let's see, here? So second Li is the second Li element, right? So here, we started here, right? So we have the second Li element, that's an object that points to this particular node, right? Now this has a property called parent node. So that refers to the container of it, which is in that case the URL. Yeah. All right, so that's when we are in a child. Like when we start at a child node, where do we go? We can access the parents through the parent node pointer. We can access the sibling, the previous, and the next. Okay, but what if we started at the parent node? Where do we go from there? Now, there is a property called the children that gives you the entire list of children, but that's not the concept of traversal. Is the traversal, we go one node at a time. Okay, so how do we traverse through? Starting at the parent, we can go to the first element, child. Okay, also there's first child, that in that particular case will be the empty line. Okay, so if we want to go, we want to access the text children as well, we use the next child. If we want to skip over the text children, we use the first element child. Okay, and then there is the last element child. Okay, so if we want to traverse through every single element in the tree, we start at the parent. We can go starting at the parent. We go first child, and then we first element child, and then we go next element sibling, next element sibling, next element sibling until it's not. Yes, it's not. It's gonna be empty. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay, so now this is how to access them. And what do we want to do when we access them? We want to update, either read from them or update. Okay, so what do we what is contained inside a node element or an element node? We can have content or attributes, just like we mentioned. Content are the children, so in whatever inside the opening and closing tag will be content. So that could be text content or could be element content. Okay, and then there are the attributes. So attributes are accessible, as I mentioned, through properties. Okay, and here in that case, the child or the content of that element is text. So the child of the element li would be a text node. But sometimes we can have the children mixed between HTML and text. So it's not always pure either HTML or text. It could be both. Okay, so in that case, for example, here we have this li element has its children. One of them is another element that is em for emphasis, and then the other is plain text. So how would that look like inside the tree structure? So we have the li node that has attributes, okay? And then the first child, according to the code here, is the em element. And the em element itself has a child. So in respect of li, this text is the grandchild, okay? And then the next element or the next child of li is plain text. Okay, so the sibling of em is text, right? And the child of em is also text now. Okay. And it's not always that clean either, so you can have text surrounding the HTML. So in that case, the first word here would be the first child. That's not an element. So that's one case that we don't want to skip if we want to traverse every single child in the tree. So this is not an empty line. This is actual content here. Okay, so the first child will be text node. Sorry, this would be, technically, this is the second child because the first child is the empty line. Okay, we will see it in the browser in a bit. But when we talk about real content, that this word would have the put in a text node, and then the next sibling will be the element, the em element, and then the third sibling will be the text element. Yes. Yeah. There is actually something that collects all the texts from all the children. We'll see it in a bit. Okay, now how to access the content? So let's say we want to have the value of the text. So node value. So now if we keep navigating, so EL is the element that we have here, right? This is the element we're referring to with EL. Okay, now when we say first element child, it will go to EM. Next sibling, it will go to the text. And then node value will be the actual text. All right, so this would return the text that is stored here. All right, now what if we want just a plain text? Now we can have the point, I was starting at the parent here, the LI. We say text content, it will just get all the leaf nodes, all the nodes that are text beneath it. Okay. Now, what if I want to access the HTML? Then there's a property called inner HTML. Okay. Now, before we go to that, let's see that in the browser.